Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to ENZ, especially Miss Vân, for giving me this opportunity to share our stories in Vietnam. As a bit of background, I was a full scholarship student from AusEd, the Australian Education Ads, the Australian Ads Agency, and I was studying at University of South Australia. And since then, I always worked in education in Vietnam, and I used to be the first recruitment and marketing manager of IDP Vietnam. Then AEI Vietnam, and then StudyLink. At the moment, I'm the Vice President of Vietnam International Education Consultancy Association, VICA, which is similar to FELCA and TICA of Thailand. And I was very lucky to be able to be a speaker on various TV channels and newspaper online channels. And at the moment, special study abroad episode on HTV9 every other Sunday about study abroad programs. So through my 20 years of experience in international education in Vietnam, I've worked through a lot of collaboration models for schools especially. Of course, StudyLink has been representing a lot of renowned Australian universities, Canadian universities, American universities, but today this presentation is specific on school collaboration, and I'm sure you may have gone through or experienced or heard a lot about very popular programs like school visit, principals, exchange, school fairs, designated scholarship for specific high school in Vietnam, and summer study tours. But what StudyLink has been doing differently in the past 7 years were school exchange. And when I talk about school exchange, it includes teacher exchange, curriculum, and methodology development workshops, and also student exchange. So these pictures are some of our group's pictures taken in Australia. Why school exchange? For us, it's very different from summer study tour. The meaning of it expands farther than recruitment. With school exchange, here we have to ask for government permit, and with the approval and the facilitation of the local Department of Education, the program become a government recognized official program, which is highly recognized by principals of all various top public schools in Vietnam. And it also has the excellent community development meaning, because it builds the name of that overseas school, at the same time the home country, to the big community of students and parents and teachers in one particular, of course, special school in Vietnam. And both sides benefit mutually. They develop a long-term sister school relationship, and it's an exclusive relationship for a certain country destination. And going along with that is the distinguished branding with special treatment. With top public schools in Vietnam, when you go into any of them, you may encounter hundreds of competitors because their students are the best students in the country, and they really sought after by schools from America, Canada, UK, anywhere else, especially for scholarships. So forming a unique sister relationship with a school means you're different from the rest, and you're expected, especially from the rest. The program attracts top excellent students because we work with the local school to select only qualified and capable students to join the program. And the most important part of it is the most effective and permanent long-term recruitment strategy you can use to source students from a particular very good school. So in the past 7 years, StudyLink was lucky to be supported by the Department of Education in Victoria, Melbourne. And the department has taken, I would say, 3-4 years to fight for us the suitable and willing schools, and of course have to be academically good school in Victoria to form sister school relationship with our local schools here. And we were able to match 2 top co-ed public schools in Melbourne with 2 gifted schools in Ho Chi Minh City, who have very good academic students, and at the same time, their students can speak English fluently. So since 2012, every July, we have a group of Vietnamese students going to Melbourne for 2 weeks, studying in the partner school. And alongside with that, a teacher from the local school will accompany the group during the 2 weeks in Melbourne. And during that 2 weeks, the teachers will have opportunities to observe, discuss, and work on curriculum and methodology with the Australian teachers in the local public high school in Victoria. On the other side, the Australian students did come to Vietnam, but not as often as the Vietnamese students. Maybe they have a group from each school every 2-3 years, not on an annual basis. But from the Vietnam side, it's an annual program. And the students were selected by English, academic and social skills, and each group comprises between 10 and 15 students each year going to Australia. And of course, they went and studied on visitor visa. And they will mix with the Australian students in the normal class. They are able to choose courses that they are interested. For example, some would choose mathematics, some would choose science, and of course, all of them choose English. And apart from studying in the class, exactly like the same like the Australian students, they participated in sports and music and other social activities together with their peers in the school. The result of this in the past 5 years was that every year the sister school in Australia received between 2 to 3 students from Vietnam, from the sister school in Vietnam, returning back to Melbourne to study the long-term self-paying academic program. The difference of this exchange program with the normal study tour in the summer from any organization holding summer tours overseas is that the organizers and the implementation of the exchange program are at government level, not privately arranged between the 2 organizations on a commercial basis. The schools in Australia has kindly waived the tuition fees for 2 weeks and the room and board fees for 2 weeks. And why could they do this? Because they asked for volunteers from their own community in the school. So they may limit 10 to 15 depending on each year, which parents or families of students of their school would be willing to host a friend from Vietnam for 2 weeks. Sometimes the host could be one of the teachers or some of the teachers of the school, apart from the parents of their own students. The Vietnamese students paid for everything else, excursion fees, etiquettes, insurance, and any other fees like visa fees or fees for their teachers. With the experience of the subjects and the study environment, the students really experience a true overseas study environment, which is different from a language school or a language summer tour, where most students will go to a language center studying with other overseas students, not studying the the academic subjects, and not studying with the local Australian students. So through the 7 years, we have received all positive feedback from the Australian schools and the students and the parents who participated in the program, and the local Vietnamese schools. The principals, the teachers, the students, after each trip, they wrote stories, they did projects, they posted news on their website, Facebook, and of course now with Facebook, they spread among friends, telling about how good, how wonderful their experience was in Australia. And that really was a strong students from the two gifted schools. The Australian education system is so modern and advanced, and they really compare why a student would like to study overseas long term, because they study only 3 to 4 subjects rather than 13. And they can study accounting, business, other university level subjects in high school. This student had special note about the air, about the climate and the weather there, which of course much better than what we can have here. And she said she surely will come back to Melbourne to study. This student was learning about VCE, which is Victorian Certificate of Education, how you graduate from high school in Australia and how to get in an Australian university. And she learned a lot, and she liked the host family, the transport system, and it helped her open up to her future, thinking what goals she should set and what she can do for her goals. With this student, she's excited about other extracurriculum activities and skills that she could learn apart from academic program, which is very different from what they have here in the Vietnamese education system. And she said she will definitely return to Melbourne. So, we have had expression of interest from other gifted schools in Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and Da Nang to participate in similar exchange programs with other partners in Australia and other countries. And that's why I have talked to Ms. Vân that this is an opportunity that I would like to introduce to you all if you really think of something different, working in depth with the local top high schools. When I talk about these top gifted schools, what does that mean? Their students are winners of international prizes in maths, in science, in English. they got Olympic prizes. They won, I mean, you get the top of the top in this country. And never we had a bad comment about the students participating in the program. Because they smart, they active, and they really exchange their culture and let the Australian students know how Vietnamese students can do very well. Of course, in our country, the most critical part in working with a government school is our rules. The government, the Vietnamese government has very strict rules in welcoming partners from overseas, in working in any public institutions here. It's scrutinized. You have to get permit, and you have to gain the trust from the local school and the local government. And usually, new partners will find it quite a challenge because they don't know who the school is. Usually, that was built over time. So if we work with you, we can help you with all of those things because we already have the model, we already had the connection and the relationship and the network of the top schools in all 3 cities, and all the legal protocols both the school and your school have to go through. We can solve them all in a timely manner because the department in every city knows us very well. If you're really interested in this, the next intake that you can look at is June or July 2020. The Vietnamese schools have a summer break for 3 months from June to August, and that's the most suitable time for them to travel overseas for 2 weeks. But of course, we would need to discuss on your own calendar because I don't know, June or July, what dates would be best for your own students and your school. If you would like to take next steps, those would include please express your interest through ENZ or directly to myself if Ms. Vân is too busy. And then we will start talking to the local schools here. We have 8 schools interested from 3 cities. And then we will help facilitate the communication between the 2 schools and then arrange school visits for when you come here next trip and signing off the MOU and then discussing on how to announce and launch the program in the schools and on local media, the media of the school. And then selection of students and all the logistics of the trip will be organized by StudyLink. So that's it. That's my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm very willing to answer.